This is an ABC News special report.
Hi, I'm Diana Sato. We are coming on the air with breaking news because the federal classified documents case against former President Trump has now been dismissed. Judge Aileen Cannon made that ruling, saying the special counsel's appointment, the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith, was unconstitutional. I want to bring in our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky, for more on the judge's ruling. And, Aaron, this revolves around the Constitution's appointments clause. Where did the judge find this legal argument?
The judge fully agreed with former President Trump's defense attorneys that the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith by Attorney General Merrick Garland was unconstitutional. They said only Congress should be allowed to authorize the appointment of someone of Smith's stature, and only Congress is allowed to authorize the funding for an investigation led by someone like special counsel Jack Smith. Judge Cannon writing in her decision, Diane, that special counsel Smith's prosecution of this action breaches two structural cornerstones of our constitutional scheme: the role of Congress in the appointment of constitutional officers and the role of Congress in authorizing expenditures by law. This means that the prosecution of former President Trump, she said, over his handling of classified documents cannot go forward. And it now means the former president will not be prosecuted over his efforts to allegedly hoard classified material at Mar-a-Lago after leaving the White House, and his alleged efforts to obstruct the government's investigation to try and get those documents back.
And I want to bring in our senior reporter, Catherine Falders, who broke this story for us. Catherine, what does this mean for this case going forward? Can this still come together with a new special counsel, or is this case now over?
Well, it is pretty much over, and of course there will be some appeals here, I can imagine, by special counsel Jack Smith. We haven't heard from him yet, but what this means are the 40 counts that Donald Trump was facing. This was for the mishandling of classified documents and obstructing the government's investigation. 40 counts there in Florida. He no longer faces, totally dropped. We'll have to see how the special counsel reacts to this. I'm told by multiple sources that Trump has been made aware of this, that he was made aware of this pretty immediately. They are drafting a statement, either from the former president himself, so we should get that soon. But what this means is the case is over. This also means his co-defendants won't face any charges. His valet, well, now that the property manager of Mar-a-Lago, Carlos de Oliveira, also facing charges for allegedly obstructing the government's investigation. That's gone, too. They were supposed to be down in court later this month on July 22nd for a status conference in the case. That will no longer happen. They essentially, this is totally done. We will see appeals. We're waiting to hear on what the special counsel, Diane, ultimately says. I'm sure we will hear something soon.
And I want to bring in our chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl, on the timing here, John. Just months before the election, 2 days after an assassination attempt on former President Trump, and the day the Republican convention starts. What do you make of that? How big is this impact on former President Trump and the Trump campaign?
Well, first of all, Trump's allies are absolutely ecstatic about this. As soon as the news broke, I talked to one of his close advisors, somebody who's been intimately involved with trying to appeal this case, trying to stop this investigation, who referred to Judge Aileen Cannon as Justice Cannon. In other words, she has done such a solid for the former president that she'll be on the short list for Supreme Court should he get back to the White House again. I mean, look. Let's be clear about this. This was a long shot of an effort by the Trump legal team to get this case thrown out by saying that special counsels are not constitutional. I mean, we've had special counsels for years, including special counsels that have been cheered on by Republicans, like special counsel Durham, who was investigating the origins of the Russia investigation. So the idea that special counsels are not authorized by the Constitution because they weren't authorized by Congress is a, let's say, somewhat of a far-fetched legal opinion, certainly outside of the mainstream. But the Trump legal team made this case. They were throwing everything at the case, trying everything to get it thrown out. And here you have Judge Cannon issuing this shocking order, effectively killing this investigation on the first day of the Republican National Committee. It's really quite amazing. And by the way, let's not forget, this is the special counsel investigation into the classified documents case. But it's not. Jack Smith's also got a separate special counsel investigation into January 6th. And Judge Cannon has no authority over that. But by this reasoning, if you were to buy into this reasoning, that would be also an illegal, unauthorized special counsel investigation. Look, there's no real time to appeal this. And trying to go through an appeal just days after an assassination attempt is going to be optically difficult. But I would suspect this would be strongly appealed.
And I want to bring that point to our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. Pierre, we're still waiting comment from special counsel Jack Smith. But what does this now mean for the January 6th case, which he is also overseeing? And what do you expect to hear from the Justice Department on this?
First of all, I just spoke to a senior Justice Department official who basically said they are scrambling, trying to understand this ruling. We're expecting to get some sort of comment from the special counsel, Jack Smith, forthcoming. Clearly, this is a stunning development. I can tell you an appeal is something that definitely going to be considered. This special counsels have been a linchpin for the Justice Department in investigating politically sensitive cases. So right now, again, this was perhaps the most important case the Justice Department ever brought, and this was brought first, is now in jeopardy. We're waiting for the special counsel to respond. We expect DOJ will be responding very soon.
And Aaron, what are you hearing in your reporting about the larger impact here?
Well, there is a line in the decision from Judge Cannon that says that this does not apply to other jurisdictions. So the implication seems to be that while she found the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith in the classified documents case to be in violation of the Constitution, she does seem to suggest that it doesn't necessarily apply to the January 6th prosecution. So it's possible that that case could move forward unimpeded should the presiding judge, Tanya Chutkan, disagree, even though Trump's lawyers may try the same tactic, this long shot tactic, which has succeeded now in Florida. And it comes after a concurring opinion by Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas in the recent Supreme Court opinion about presidential immunity. There was nothing in that opinion that was supposed to address the appointments of special counsel, but Justice Thomas went out of his way to question the legality of appointing special counsels, and that seems to be where Judge Cannon down in Florida has gravitated to. It could be ripe for appeal by special counsel Smith and the Justice Department. Those Pierre notes, Diane, we have not heard from the special counsel yet.
And we haven't heard yet either from former President Trump on this, but our executive editorial producer, John Santucci, has spoken to sources close to the former president. John, what are you hearing about his reaction?
Diane, I did just speak to multiple sources close to former President Trump. They tell ABC News, shock, incredible. One person calling me saying, did you guys see this? We can't believe it. I think this is just an unbelievable moment, obviously, because of the last couple of days for former President Trump. But, this was the one case out of the four that because of Judge Cannon, they had a bit of optimism. They had been saying repeatedly the hearings, the comments the judge was making in court, sources telling me they leave court and former President Trump was in the best mood. Our Catherine Falters has observed that in first person multiple times. I know she was just on with you. But I can tell you that for folks around Donald Trump, they have said this has been a year that has rocked this former president, obviously, between the 7 weeks that he spent at Manhattan court, the shooting that happened, the assassination attempt this past weekend. But the fact that this came, as one person said to me, what happens tomorrow? It seems every day has just been something for this former president, and really a lot of luck on his side, as one person observed to me, Diane.
And Catherine, you were in the courtroom for most of this trial. What does this mean now for Trump's legal team?
I've been to literally every single one of these hearings. What does it mean for Trump's legal team? It means that they no longer have work in this case. Now, I will tell you, from sitting in Cannon's courtroom, Special Counsel Jack Smith has been there often. It's quite a different vibe than many of these other courthouses that Trump has so used to sitting in. This is a judge who Trump appointed to the bench, who has ruled in his favor, who he likes, in fact, very much. And you can see from sitting in that courtroom, there's an adversarial relationship between the judge and the special counsel's team. Judge Cannon has multiple times during these proceedings had to tell prosecutors with the special counsel's office to calm down. They're getting too worked up. At one point during one hearing months ago, she essentially said that they were being disrespectful and kicked everybody out of the courtroom. So this is certainly a case where the Trump lawyers were thrilled to have Cannon assigned as a judge, and clearly has worked in their favor. I was just on the phone with a couple sources close to Trump's legal team who have informed, obviously, the former president about this, and they told me, and this is a quote, that they hope and expect the same logic will apply to the D.C. case. Now, what does that mean? We know the special counsel was overseeing two cases, the federal case in Washington, D.C., of course, the classified documents case. They hope that the federal case, of course, also gets thrown out, too. We know those proceedings have been paused. They will resume eventually here in the coming days. So that's at least what we're hearing so far from the Trump legal team. No comment right now from special counsel Jack Smith. I can imagine that we will be hearing from him soon, either publicly or in a court filing, Diane.
John, what does this mean now for Trump going into the Republican National Convention without having to worry about this case? And what are you looking to hear from him on Thursday?
Well, look, this just adds to that air of triumph that he's going to bring into this. Leading in the polls, surviving the assassination attempt the way he did in Pennsylvania, coming in as you talk to delegates already here at the convention, you get the sense that they're treating him as already the president-elect. Obviously, there's 4 months of campaigning to go, but there is a real sense that he's got it all going for him, and this certainly plays into this. And I have to say that there's something else about the timing here. Look, Judge Cannon has already been overruled on matters, including, by the 11th Circuit, which is a conservative circuit. So there is little doubt that an order like this would be ripe for appeal, and she would quite likely be overruled on something like this. But coming when this has come so late in the process, in a case that has been delayed over and over and over again, I mean, there's no time. There's just no time. There was already highly, highly unlikely that this case could have come to trial before the election in November. But, I mean, this is now, I mean, there's just absolutely no way. And, Judge Cannon, as Aaron pointed out, saying this doesn't necessarily affect other jurisdictions. Well, of course it doesn't, because she has no jurisdiction whatsoever over that January 6th case. And I would see zero possibility that Judge Chutkan, in that case, would agree with this highly unusual reading of the special counsel statute to throw the case out on the grounds that Judge Cannon has. But no, this is going to be a triumphant Donald Trump. The one thing that he has signaled about his speech, he has said that he has completely rewritten his speech based on what happened in Pennsylvania, making it a speech that is now aimed at national unity. We'll see how this impacts that, but certainly Republicans feeling like they've got the wind at their back right now.
All right, John, Catherine, Aaron, Pierre, John, thank you all. And again, that federal classified documents case against former President Trump is now dismissed. We will have much more tonight on a special edition of World News Tonight with David Muir live from Milwaukee, and continued coverage on ABC News Live. I'm Diane Macedo. Now we'll return to your regular programming. Have a great day. You're watching ABC News Live special coverage as we follow this breaking news. The judge overseeing the classified documents case against former President Trump has dismissed the case. Judge Aileen Cannon ruled that the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith violated the Appointments Clause of the Constitution. Trump's defense attorneys had argued that the funding of the special counsel's office was unconstitutional because it relies on a permanent, indefinite appropriation that's outside of the normal budget process. At issue here, the key is that Jack Smith was never confirmed by the Senate. Judge Aileen Cannon is now saying that makes his appointment unconstitutional. Let's bring in senior reporter Catherine Faulders, as well as senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky, Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas, and ABC's legal contributor Kim Whaley for more on this. Aaron, walk me through what went into this decision and how exactly Judge Cannon is now saying that Jack Smith's appointment violated the Constitution.
This was seen as a long-shot argument by former President Trump's defense team to challenge the constitutionality of Special Counsel Jack Smith's appointment. Special counsels have been appointed for years, and oftentimes they're challenged, but courts until now have always allowed them to stand. But here, Judge Aileen Cannon in Florida says that the Special Counsel Jack Smith violates the Appointments Clause of the Constitution. The bottom line is this, she writes: the Appointments Clause is a critical constitutional restriction stemming from the separation of powers, and it gives to Congress a considered role in determining the propriety of vesting appointment power for inferior officers. The special counsel's position effectively usurps that important legislative authority. And so she agrees with former President Trump's lawyers that Special Counsel Smith was improperly appointed and only Congress can authorize funding. Now, what does it mean? If Special Counsel Smith decides to appeal, he does have some options, and he's successful. It could reconstitute the case perhaps before a different judge. He could also try and just turn the file over to ordinary prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida who are outside the special counsel's command. There are options here, but for now, Diane, this ruling means that former President Trump is not going to be prosecuted over his handling of classified documents.
Now, Aaron, Jack Smith was appointed as a private citizen. Was there something especially unusual about his appointment that put it in the crosshairs here?
There didn't seem to be, but here Trump's defense team argued, and Judge Cannon has now agreed, that Attorney General Merrick Garland did not have the power, that Jack Smith, because of the powers that he was given, should have been rightfully appointed by Congress, and Congress should be the one to authorize funding for an investigation into Trump's handling of classified documents. Smith is also overseeing the case that charges former President Trump over election interference, including January 6th. Judge Cannon noted in her decision, though, that this applies only in Florida and does not have jurisdiction in D.C.
Catherine, you were in the courtroom for most of these proceedings in this trial. What do you make of the judge's argument here and the potential impact on January 6th, given her specifics in that part of the ruling?
Well, right. She did make very clear that this shouldn't affect other jurisdictions, at least what Cannon put in her order. But in terms of this ruling, I think it's quite shocking, on the one hand, that the judge dismissed this case based on a legal argument that really hasn't been made and has been dismissed, frankly, by other judges who have not taken up this idea that Smith's appointment was unconstitutional. In fact, when I was sitting in the courtroom for these motions to dismiss based on Jack Smith, she didn't really seem to agree, frankly, with Trump's lawyers on their argument over Jack Smith. Now, what's very surprising here to me, and why the two are related, is, of course, when the Supreme Court came down with the immunity decision, there was Clarence Thomas wrote essentially about the appointment of Special Counsel Jack Smith and how that was unconstitutional, even though that argument wasn't brought up by Jack Smith in the immunity case. Now, it seems that Judge Cannon, since now she has some precedent at the court, has seized on Clarence Thomas's writings there and now is using that as a way that she could throw this case out entirely, which is what she's done. But as you mentioned, I have been in that courtroom, frankly, for all of these hearings. And at the time when we were sitting there, I was not convinced that she would dismiss the case based on Jack Smith allegedly being unconstitutional. Diane.
Kim, other courts largely rejected this argument in the past, as Catherine points out. So could this now set a new precedent for the appointment of special counsels?
Well, for sure. This is, I think, a cascade that, as Catherine indicated, is coming from that pivotal Trump versus United States decision by the Supreme Court, which really elevated powers of the president kind of beyond what we anticipated. And the court separately has also made changes to statutory frameworks. This is a very radical court. So I think what she is saying is that even though prior to this court, it was probably well accepted that this is really just another prosecutor within the Justice Department. The special counsel regulation is designed to protect the people that are being investigated from direct control by the president. But she's making a very formalist reading of Article 2 and saying essentially Jack Smith has superpowers under the Constitution, and there's a separate way of appointing those kind of people. And so we are now going to take the energy, frankly, from this Supreme Court, very pro-Trump, and strike down the entire thing. I don't think it's an outrageous argument, and that means it is something that, were this to go up to the Supreme Court, I think a majority, per Justice Thomas's concurring opinion, might agree with Judge Cannon in this case.
Senior national correspondent Terry Moran, I want to bring you in because Judge Cannon was appointed by former President Trump. She made several decisions seeming to favor him throughout the course of this trial, and a lot of critics didn't like that, raising questions about whether she was biased and actually being impartial. How significant is this decision now, and what happens on appeal on that front?
Well, it's a huge decision, no question about it, Diane, and it will be brought up on appeal. This is a law, the special counsel regulations within the Department of Justice, that has been upheld by the Supreme Court repeatedly. Justice Aileen Cannon is a lower court judge. She's a district court judge. Part of her job is to follow binding Supreme Court precedent. This opinion, 93 pages, she worked on it a long time. She wants to make this a signature moment in her judicial career, flies in the face of binding Supreme Court precedents. And I do think the Supreme Court will want to take a look at this. Justice Thomas, who wrote a dissent, a concurrence in the Trump case, a Trump immunity case, saying that that case should be thrown out on the same grounds that Aileen Cannon is throwing out this case, didn't even get his conservative colleagues, Justice Alito, Justice Gorsuch, Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Barrett, Justice Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, to join him on that. And so I think there's a shot in the Supreme Court, but it is a shocking opinion. One, she clearly wants to declare her independence from precedent, and I think that will get the notice of the 11th Circuit. It's a hard choice for the Justice Department to ask for the dismissal of a judge, but she does have a track record now that has gone beyond the boundaries of what district court judges are supposed to do. There's also a competency question in some of her rulings. And so I expect to see the Justice Department ask for her not just to be overturned on this issue, which they may get, but to be dismissed from the case.
We're now getting some reaction in from Capitol Hill. Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican from Wisconsin, says it's good to see some sanity returned to our judicial system. Senator Josh Hawley is calling this huge news. Senator Roger Marshall saying justice has prevailed. Pierre, obviously, Republicans on Capitol Hill are celebrating this decision. What are you hearing from the Justice Department on this?
Well, again, DOJ officials are trying to respond to this, to reviewing the judge's order. And two things come to mind. Number one, that this is another sign that any expectation whatsoever that this case was going to be resolved before the election is over. Number two, I would say, DOJ has a lot of options here, including to appeal this case. But again, effectively, this case going forward before the election, that's over. Now we just wait to hear from DOJ in terms of how they want to proceed in regard to this ruling with a judge that they felt has been, working very much against their actions, and they believe that this judge, in many cases, has been wrong on the law, and they've said so. So I think at the end of the day, we wait for DOJ to respond. We expect to get a statement from the special counsel and/or the Attorney General's office very soon. This was one of perhaps the most important case DOJ brought. It was the first case that the special counsel brought, consequential case involving a former president, the presumptive leading candidate for the Republican nomination. This is major for the DOJ. It has extraordinary implications for that department.
So, Aaron, what does this mean going forward for the special counsel's team and their findings? Do they go away now, or could this team still publish what they discovered in this investigation?
Well, if his appointment is unconstitutional and the case goes away, I'm not sure. They could turn over their findings to line prosecutors in the Justice Department and have them perhaps try to continue in some form, because while the case is dismissed on grounds that the special counsel's appointment was unconstitutional, Judge Cannon's opinion today does not resolve the main question, which is, did former President Trump mishandle classified material after he left office, and did he obstruct the government's efforts to get that material back? That question remains open. Prosecutors remain convinced that Trump did violate the law, although the former president continues to deny it.
And I want to bring in ABC's Jay O'Brien, who's at the RNC in Milwaukee now. Jay, what's the reaction like now as the Republican National Convention gets ready to kick off in just a few hours?
Well, the reaction is just kind of starting to pour in, Diane. This news is still very much percolating across Milwaukee here as Republicans set to gather in just a few hours from now to begin their convention and formalize Donald Trump's nomination as their presidential candidate. But there's two things to note. Firstly, you rattled through some of the congressional Republican reaction that we've already gotten so far. It's worth just going back to it just to set the tone here into what we've heard. Ron Johnson is probably the most significant reaction we've heard so far. It's good to see, as you noted, some sanity return to our judicial system is what he wrote. But there's one more reaction to keep an eye on, and that's Marco Rubio, who is considered to be on Trump's short list for vice presidential picks, right? That short list has about 3 people on it, we're told. It's Marco Rubio, Senator of Florida, J.D. Vance, Senator of Ohio, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. And so far, the only reaction we've gotten, and it's still early, by the way, is from Rubio, and all he said is dismissed with an exclamation point. But when you talk about what this is going to do to the overall mood here in Milwaukee, this is not the convention that Republicans plan to hold really just this time a week ago. Firstly, of course, the thing that is most certainly going to change the dynamic of this convention was that attempted assassination on former President Trump. We already know that that is going to change the convention. We've already talked to people who are rewriting their speeches. The former president has said that he's writing his speech in media and rewriting his speech in media interviews. And then, of course, this only adds on to the changing dynamic here, because this is something that Republicans are going to present to the American people from that stage in Milwaukee, most likely as a win, as a step in a positive direction for their candidate as they try to make their pitch to the American people for a second Trump term.
So, Terry, what does this mean for former President Trump's campaign now and the former president himself, given the timing here? This is a huge decision, landing 2 days after an assassination attempt on him and the first day of the Republican National Convention.
Well, what an astonishing run of luck, of good fortune, of justice in the eyes of his supporters, and of, you know, in the eyes of many of his supporters, of divine intervention in some ways. The man has escaped an assassination attempt almost miraculously. He has bested his opponent in debate, watching the nation watching as President Biden seemed almost too feeble to continue the debate, much less the campaign or serve another four years in the presidency. He's had this case dismissed. He won in the Supreme Court of the United States, which granted him and all presidents and former presidents sweeping immunity from prosecution for crimes they committed in office. There can be no more wind in his sails. He sails into this convention on a note of triumph over his enemies that is almost epic and mythical. It will supercharge what is already a convention ready to welcome him with open arms and praise him to the heavens.
All right, Catherine Falders, Aaron Katersky, Jay O'Brien, Pierre Thomas, Kim Whaley, and Terry Moran. Thank you all. Coming up, we have team coverage on the assassination attempt of the former president's life, from the RNC kicking off today to what we know about the shooter. We have you covered right here on ABC News Live. Stay with us.
Whenever news breaks,
we are here in Israel, a nation at war after that brutal surprise attack by Hamas.
On the ground in Ukraine, reporting from Lewiston, Maine.
The scene of a horrific mass shooting.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
In Rolling Fork, this tornado tore through this little town.
From the most devastating disaster in Hawaii.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
In Iceland. Let's go.
Traveling
with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
From the front lines, from southern Israel, outside the Gaza Strip, in Beirut, from the FBI.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line
here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live. Streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
Here's to Good Mornings in America.
Can you feel the love? Oh, yeah.
Mornings that inspire, filled with hope, kindness, joyous surprises, and so much fun.
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
Start your day with Good Morning America's ray of sunshine, highlighting the best of America and helping
make dreams come true.
Wow.
I'm just so happy. It's so good.
Get ready to smile and put the good into your morning, America, because
you know what will make the morning better? A little ray of sunshine.
When it matters most, America turns to David Muir and ABC's World News Tonight.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. First, you're looking at Milwaukee on this Monday, where the Republican National Convention is set to go on as planned, despite the assassination attempt on former President Trump. Trump is praising the Secret Service agents who acted quickly to protect him after a gunman opened fire at his Pennsylvania rally Saturday, piercing his right ear, killing a bystander, and seriously wounding 2 others. Now the FBI is working to determine the shooter's motives, saying they believe the 20-year-old gunman acted alone. And President Biden is urging Americans to cool political rhetoric. In an Oval Office address, the president said, "Remember that while we may disagree, we are not enemies." ABC's Rhiannon Alley has the latest.
Violence has never been the answer, whether it's with members of Congress of both parties being